Welcome back to the Diversity in Action podcast, where we amplify the voices and experiences of our diverse student populations. My name is Yolehema Felican, and I have the privilege to serve as the director for the Office of Student Diversity and Multicultural Affairs. In honor of Women's History Month, today's theme is Moving Forward Together, Educating and Inspiring Generations. Throughout history, women have broken barriers, uplifted communities, and paved the way for future generations. But progress is not a solo journey, it's a collective effort. This episode will dive into inspiring conversations with student leaders who are trailblazers and change makers who continue to push boundaries, lighting the path forward. Joining us today, we have Mekaylia Ingram and Mishal Qureshi. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Of course. You are both, again, trailblazers, change makers, so I'm excited for this conversation as we talk about essentially paying it forward. But before we get started, if you both can just tell me a little bit about yourself, or tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, introduce yourselves, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Mekaylia. I am a senior nursing student, which is insane, with a psychology minor, and I've been at Fairfield since August of 2021 because I did academic immersion, and I'm really excited to be here today.
And my name is Mishal. I am currently a junior in the Dolan School of Business. I am double majoring in accounting and finance with a minor in analytics. And I've been on this campus since August 2022, the year of after Mekaylia, because I was also part of the amazing academic immersion program where I actually met Yolehema and Mekaylia.
Awesome. Yes. You both just had me like reflecting because I'm just like, man, it's definitely been a journey. So again, just super, super excited. So Mekaylia and Mishal, you're both first generation college students. So when we think about the theme moving forward together, what does that mean to you in the context of being a first generation student? And how do you hope that your journey will inspire younger generations, whether that's in your family or just in your community?
I think it's really important to be the first, especially when it comes to getting higher education. It's very hard. Like, it's not anything that's easy. It's not anything that's, oh, there's systems set in place, like you'll be fine. Like when you get there, like if you know, you know. And if you are in it, then no one can tell your experience. And then you don't have like your family that's like, well, mom, I have to study for this exam. And they're like, yeah, just study. I'm like, well, that's on top of the 5 million other things I have to do. So they just don't understand. So being able to have people in your community, especially at Fairfield, who are also first gen, like Mishal here, like I'm able to lean on them and be able to relate to them, even though we're all in the same boat and there's no one else that has paved the way or have landed on the other side before us. It just kind of helps to hold hands with each other, hug each other when things do get rough. And it's really nice to have that community, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely agree with Mekaylia. Like coming out from even my background a little bit, I come from all the way from Pakistan, and my family moved to the United States just so me and my siblings could just get a chance at having education, because unfortunately, girl opportunities with education in Pakistan for girls are very, very limited. So seeing that, like seeing the sacrifices they made, leaving their comfortable lives in Pakistan to come here was already like such a big like part of my identity. Like being an immigrant in the United States, it's scary. Like when you come to a country, you don't know the language of, you barely know any people, and then navigating the education system here. Oh my God, that was an eye-opening experience. So being first gen has meant so much to me because one of the sacrifices my parents have made for me, and then like navigating college without a blueprint. Oh, that was another part that like I always feel like there's parts of me that like, oh my God, am I even supposed to be here? Like that imposter syndrome hitting, like, do I deserve to be here? Like my parents have worked double the hard for me just for me to be here. But that's when I learned that like we'll always feel like this way in some way, shape, or form, but we all don't show it in one way. We show it in different ways. So it's been a journey being first gen, but I'm like very proud of it because that's what ultimately like inspired me to create the First Gen Stacks Club. I wanted to build a community where we all feel like we're being heard, seen, and valued. I mean, those are big essentials at the end, like at the end of the day. And then coming to I feel like if it wasn't for my experiences in academic immersion, coming directly to Fairfield, it definitely would not, like the transition would not have been as smooth as it was through AI because I was already like introduced to like such an amazing community before I officially started here.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for that. And I just want to reaffirm, because I know that imposter syndrome is real, right? And it happens, and it tends to sneak up on us when we least expect it, right? We're just like, wait a minute, like I kind of thought that I was okay. Like, I've gone through 4 years or I've gone through 3 years and I thought, but then sometimes it approaches in different situations and things of that sort. But I'm just here to reaffirm that you're supposed to be here, right? You're supposed to take up space in all the spaces in which you occupy, and just having that serve as that reminder, right? Because imposter syndrome, again, it's a real thing. It does tend to sneak up on us, but we just have to remind ourselves, right? And pride ourselves in what we've done and how far we've come, and that we deserve to be here and to take up the spaces that we take up. So appreciate both of your responses. And as I think about being first gen, right? And you think about being the first, there's no one, to pave the way. There's no one to kind of look up to in that regard, right? But we're talking about that more specifically as it pertains to college, right? Being the first gen college student. But when we just think about inspiration or, people that you do look up to, who are some women who have inspired you, and how have, if they have, their stories shaped your own journey?
Yeah, I think definitely, obviously my mom, I had to start off with my mom. She didn't attend college, but that was her biggest dream for all her kids. And she enforced in us, she was like, you don't even have to work when you're like 16. You don't have to do anything as long as you're going to school and getting good grades. She emphasized the importance of an education to us. She was like, a lot of the things that I had to go through was because I didn't have that education. So make sure that you prioritize that. And I'm so glad. It was annoying, like, growing up, I'm like, Mom, I am doing good in school. Like, why do you keep reinforcing that? And everything I do is to make her proud, but she has always instilled in us education, education, education. We had the 5 B's, books before boys, because boys bring babies. And she was like, make sure you know that, because I struggle as a single mother because I didn't put my education first. And ever since she taught me that, like, I just wanted to make sure that I was going the path that she wanted me to go on, and then also finding my own journey along that path. And also, like, the people that I've met at Fairfield, I met some amazing individuals, like obviously you, Yolehema, meeting you that first day of academic immersion, and knowing how you actually started at Fairfield and how your academic journey went, especially your experiences here at Fairfield, and how you came back to be the person that you needed at Fairfield. I'm like, that always encourages me, especially when being a senior now and helping out students like Mishal and helping out friends like Mishal and others, because I called you a student. So sorry. I'm a student too. Helping out friends like Mishal, because I've been there. Like I've been like, a first year on campus, and I always say you never stop being first gen. Shouting out like people like Aaliyah. She was my academic immersion leader, and then my new student leader, and she was just amazing. Like, she kept it real with us from the jump, and being able to just be surrounded by women who empower other women was a huge factor in how I was able to even be as successful as I am on campus.
Oh wow, that was beautiful. Starting off, I think it's the same for me. It was my mom. My mom really like instilled in me, like not just me, my sisters, that like education is like the way to go. Um, Her parents didn't allow her to get an education. That was also one of her biggest aspirations and passion. And actually, like, even right now, even though she's starting late, she's actually starting to go to school. Just like she's like, that's how passionate she is about it. She's like close to 47, 50, but she wants to go to classes. And seeing her like that, even like after having 5 kids, and like she still has that passion. Like, I feel like there's days when you hear, okay, like I have this passion, but then you really see someone is passionate about something when they are taking the initiative and actions to do that. So seeing my mom at this age with after 5 children, like she's still passionate about getting education, that was like ultimately the real deal for me. But yeah, in Pakistan, the dynamics, it's very like the male has to be the one educated while the woman has to be the housemaker. And my mom wanted to challenge that, because while she wasn't able to get that education for herself, she wanted her children to do. So even like from the first day we like came to this country, that's like something she has like instilled in us. Like, guys, don't ever like let your hard work go to waste. I mean, you're working hard. You might not see like the outcome of your hard work right away, but don't ever like let that make you like, oh, okay, like I don't want to work hard anymore. So my mom, like, shout out to her, like she's my biggest superhero, my best friend, and like she is the reason why I get up every day, even on days like I have no motivation to get up to. So definitely my mom, like in that family sense. And then on campus, I feel like there's so many amazing like support systems on campus. Like shout out to the Student Diversity Multicultural Affairs, like everyone. That is like my spot to be where I'm always hanging out. And I love that office in the sense that like it really like supports you in your ideas. Like it doesn't like try to like modify them or like change them to like something like they would want or something in a vision they want to see. They like just like to hear your voices for what they are and support you in every single sense. And that support is shown through like all of our ON, like in the first and Stacks Club. I see like our faculty members like coming in, even if it's for a little bit, they come, they support us, and that support goes a long way. And then amazing people like Mekaylia and Yolehema here, you guys like definitely have played a big part in my journey at Fairfield University. I definitely felt like during my first year, I was starting to get like a little bit distance and focusing like more on my academics than really putting myself out there. But you guys were the ultimate reminders that now you need to go out of your comfort zone. These are the 4 years of your life that you don't want to miss out on such opportunities. So I think that's essentially like what encouraged me, like, okay, no, like it might be uncomfortable, but that's where the most growth happens. Like growth happens when you're uncomfortable. So I kind of had that realization now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, when you mentioned like, the most growth happens when you're uncomfortable, I actually just said that when I sat on a panel the other day. So I agree 100%. And as I was listening to you both, even just starting off with your mom, right?
Mhm.
Starting off with your mom, that is part of the theme, right? We think about inspiring generations,
Mhm.
right? And inspiration through education and just inspiration in general comes in different ways, right? So you both shared just different ways in which your mom has inspired you, fueled a fire in you,
Mhm.
right? And then you've just pretty much been hitting the ground running ever since, right? But it was something that had to start, right? That had to light that flame essentially. And when we think about inspiring generations, it doesn't have to be, from like the 1900s to now or like whatever the case may be, right? It can be from like, a generation ago or something along those lines. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And we think about just representation, right? Whether it's in the media or politics or business or what have you, what impact do you feel that it has on inspiring future generations?
Representation is huge. I talk about it all the time. When you see someone that looks like you in a space that you're thriving to be in, or in a space that, you've never seen someone that looks like you before, that's all like, you're like, oh, it's possible. So for like whenever BSU does anything with the Alumni of Color Association, I am always so inspired by the Black nurses that I see, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you guys made it through Fairfield. I can't do. Like, I got it. I remember my first time going to their picnic. It was on the Bellarmine lawn, and I was like, wait, like nursing students graduated from here that looked like me, especially being the only Black nursing student right now. There's no one that I can like look at in class and like, I see you, you see me. I'm just the only one. I gotta look in my mirror and be like, you see you, we see us. But the fact that you can like visually see someone looking like you, and they've already navigated all the things that you've navigated, they've already gone through all the things you're about to go through. It's just like, okay, I can do it. I can breathe. I can do it. So I think representation is huge. Being able to walk into the Office of Diversity and Multicultural Affairs and see a Black woman sitting in the director's office, like that is huge. Because it's like a lot of the times I feel like Black women especially are looked down upon, and like we're told that we don't belong in spaces like that. So when I see people pushing those barriers, I'm like, wait, if you guys can do it, I can do it too. It's very inspiring and touching. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I agree with, just to like add on to what Mekaylia said, representation is essential to one's identity. Like for me, being one like South Asian, like from Pakistan, and then being Muslim on the same side, while trying to intersect it with like the new culture of this like country, you can say university, it was definitely hard at first. I felt like, especially with like I my first year, I felt like if it wasn't for AI, I would have been like, oh my God, where's like I don't see anybody else like me.
Yeah.
I don't see any other, like, especially, I mean, being in Dolan, like, all my classes, I feel like it was either me as the only POC or maybe I'd see one other individual. So, no, representation is huge to my identity. I kind of like had to, well, get out of my comfort zone to feel like that I belong. So I was able to find that belonging through joining like clubs like Muslim Student Association, where we held events like Iftar for Ramadan or like Moon Night for Eid. And then being part of South Asian Student Association as secretary. I think you guys know like the flavors of what we have. It's it's huge. Seeing like all that culture within the space was definitely like, okay, like no, there are others in the space like me. I just have to go out there and find them. And that's like on the students. I feel like you'll definitely like feel lost. But if you have to, if you like do your part of going out there, um, into like conversing with other individuals around campus, you'll see that there's a lot of other individuals who are passionate about the same things you are, who have had experiences as you are. So don't like be shy and sit in your like comforts and think like, and like kind of victimize yourself. Oh, like there's nobody else on campus like me, or like I'm not good. I don't feel like I belong here and stuff like that. Like, no, there are spaces on campus, there are opportunities and resources on campus. You just have to do the work of going into finding them.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. Just as I was listening to you both, just I'm hearing the common themes of, wanting to be seen, one, right? And the reaffirming sense that you get after feeling seen, right? Or seeing someone again that looks like you, right? Because then it becomes the reality that you can do this. Because as we mentioned earlier, imposter syndrome is a real thing. So especially if you're the only one, it's kind of like, if no one did this before, like, can I really do this,
yeah.
right? But then you see that and you're just like, no, like I really can do this, right? And the other theme that I recognized when you both were speaking was community. You both spoke about just different areas that you found community. You spoke about the Black Student Union, you spoke about Muslim Student Association, SASA, and some other organizations as well, right? Because when you're in community, again, together, you can uplift and you can win and you can get through it, right? It becomes even more challenging when you're trying to do these things alone, but just the power and the importance of community was what I was hearing also from both of you. Awesome. So thank you. Mishal, you actually started talking about this in the very beginning about this first gen club, right? So you mentioned starting the first gen club here at Fairfield, right? So as we're thinking about this first gen club, you're the founder and the president. If I can just ask, what inspired you to start the first gen club, and how do you see that creating a lasting impact for future generation of students?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I feel like there's so many different aspects of it that went into it. So, I essentially what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a platform by students for students and kind of like work on amplifying and supporting the voices at Fairfield University. I didn't realize till I actually like started the club that there was so many of us at here. And that was huge for me because like when I started this, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, to be honest. But after starting it and it kind of like everything like came together. Like even though I started it, there were so many other individuals that heard about it and they're like, oh wow, like that sounds like an amazing initiative. We want to be part of it too. So like that just shows you sometimes have to take the first step to like for things to come together. So my essential like purpose was that I see that Fairfield has so many amazing resources, and as first years, there's so many things like thrown at us, like we kind of feel like lost because like they're all resources, not to undervalue them. They're amazing resources, but there's so many of them like being thrown at us that like all in one week. So that like kind of I felt like made me like lose like okay like there's so many different things like actually like they were all thrown at me. I don't know where to go. So I wanted to create this club where you can kind of find everything like all in one go. We focus on not just like having different events for our community members, but we focus on like also connecting with alumni. We focus on making sure that there's also awareness being other like resources on campus, like the campus career centers, like the amazing career fairs we have, and like mock interviews, resume workshops. These are all like as first gen, like I feel like these are all topics that are very important to first gen individual students. And after conversing with them, I was kind of validated by that. So I was able to do that within like creating the First Gen Stacks Club, where I've had the amazing like privilege of meeting like my amazing e-board members who also are like passionate about it. So I feel like because we connect on such good level, everything has been able to go like seamlessly and flawlessly. And it's kind of like hard sometimes when you see like, okay, like this person is like not as passionate as I thought they would be. But I did not have that experience. I've actually had the opposite experience. So it's been like an amazing to kind of create this like community come together where we're all being like heard, seen, and valued. And that's kind of being embodied in the different types of events we have.
Amazing.
Love that.
Super proud of you.
Thank you.
I think that what you just shared just reaffirmed the need, and we just needed someone to do it, right? So not having a first gen club before, but once you said, hey, let's have a first gen club, this is important, right? And everyone's like, well, yeah, like we should, right? But sometimes it takes that person to start the thing, right? Right? To be the person to initiate, to be the person to create the thing that's needed, right? So thank you for being that person.
Thank you. Thank you for inspiring me to do that.
It's and you've been hitting the ground running since. Like it's been amazing. It's like first gen club's doing something else. They're doing something else. You're like, Yolehema, can you sit on? Sure, whatever you need, right? Always doing something and seemingly looking so effortlessly doing it, but we know that it takes work behind the scenes. And we just thank you. We thank you for that because it truly will be very useful to generations to come, right? 20 years from now, they're not going to think like, oh, they're probably going to think Fairfield always had a first gen club, right? But no, Mishal created that when she was here because she saw the need. And a lot of times when we think about inspiring and education, inspiring and educating generations, we think about what is that need and how are we filling it, right? Because we're educating and we're inspiring through meeting the need. So again, thank you for meeting that need. Mekaylia, I have a question for you.
Okay.
We've had countless conversations just about paving the way. And even when I thought about this theme this year, I couldn't think of a better person because we're constantly talking about paving the way. Like you're like, I had to do this because, the people that come after me, I had to, if I didn't, then who? And I'm like, I would have conversations like, but does it have to be you? Right. But always as we're talking about taking that initiative and being that person and filling that need and filling that gap. And again, paving that way. So when we think about paving the way, it aligns directly with our theme, right? Moving forward together, inspiring and educating generations. So when we think about that, what really inspired you to have this desire and, really want to pave the way for folks that are after you? Because sometimes students are just like, I'm here to get my degree or I'm in this space to do what I need to do for me. But we always have conversations about it being bigger than you, right? Paving that way for future generations. So just tell me a little bit about that and where that inspiration comes from.
I think it started in high school. I went to Harding High School and it was a group of girls, my closest friends, and we would meet with our English teacher all the time. And we like called ourselves controlled chaos because we really just needed guidance. And I think that I look back at it now, I'm like, wow, a lot of the people that I was surrounded by, like they went through a lot because there was no mentorship, there was no guidance, there was no one to tell them that's normal. It's okay that it's okay that you're feeling that way, but how do we pivot? And I think that I brought that with me to college, and I came to Fairfield knowing that I was going to do all that I did. I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, because I remember looking at the diversity. I'm like, but me not going to Fairfield isn't fixing the diversity. Like, it's actually going to make it worse. So I was like, let me go see what I can do, add a little touch, add a little spice. And I was like, I'm here now. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to get in the Black Student Union. I want to do this with nursing. Like I had like a list of things I wanted to do when I got in here. But I didn't realize how hard it was going to be when I got here. And I was like, wait, it's not just a list now. Like, this is reality. Like, this is my life on top of like what you have to do for school. And I think that after getting through my first year and after like having my NSL experience and having like friendship breakups and like, feeling so alone at a point, like I was like, I never want a first year student to feel like this ever again. So I made it a point of duty to like really speak life into that first year experience, really speak life into students of color, especially the young women that were coming up, that's why I did academic immersion, and I started leading that because that's where I found, you know, the people that inspired me. And Mishal, she was very quiet. I remember you were so quiet, and she had the best friend group. And I was like, Mishal, you're gonna do so many things. She was like, you think so? Like, really? She's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, no, you are. And like, I would speak life into her constantly, and I would tell her, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do startup, you should do this, like telling her all these things that she should do. And she was like, I don't see myself there. I'm like, but I see it, so you'll do it. And it was just really nice being able to like see how much you've grown, and like, okay, if I can do that with Mishal, like who else can I reach? Who else can I? Sometimes you just need people, especially your peers, to, you know, speak life into you and like tell you about the great things that they see you doing, especially going through that first year process when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so alone. People are already established. You're like, no, you can take up space too. And I'm just really proud of you, especially for starting first gen, because that came like during the time of like Tri Alpha, which we knew nothing about, the first generation honor society. And I was like, wait, like this is great. And when I saw that you were doing and all the other amazing things that you've been doing, I'm like, Mishal, your schedule, girl, like when do you sleep? So I'm just really proud of you, and the fact that Mishal is just one of the examples that, you know, there's so many young women at Fairfield that I feel like I've been able to mentor either officially or unofficially. And I'm just really glad that you took a chance and like, you know, you really went out there. And I was like, nothing is going to happen in your dorm room. Nothing is going to happen. Like, you know, I would be like, Mishal, like, you know, you should come here. She's like, no, I have to study. I'm like, you can study some other time. Like, you know, always telling her like, you know, come out and like, you know, really enjoy that Fairfield experience. So like, I'm really glad that, especially you saying that, you just have to really just take a risk.
Yeah. No, I mean, thank you for being that. I feel like because of this like one-on-one connection we had, and like you saw like the hope in me, and like that, like I was definitely like capable of doing amazing things. And I personally, like, to be honest, like I didn't see myself at all. So no, thank you for taking the chance on me. Like that meant a lot.
You came in a star. Trust me.
Here, just wow. Like, yeah, but this is literally what we're here for, right? When we talk about, I mean, granted, it's not a generational gap between the two of you, right? But when we just think about that, inspiring and educating, right? And being a person to lead the charge, and then to see what has birthed from that, right? By taking that leadership role, by putting yourself out there, right? By putting, you know, yourself in uncomfortable at times situations, right? That may actually be comfortable or more comfortable for you now because you took that chance, right? But again, going back to that theme that we were talking about earlier of community, which is super important when we're talking about this, because as I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, it's not a solo effort, right? It truly is a collective effort when we do this great work together. So, and Mekaylia, thank you for sharing that. One of the things though that you didn't really talk about in that moment that it lives rent free in my head, is that when you became vice president, and within the blink of an eye of the Black Student Union, because when we talk about filling that gap or filling that need and doing what needs to be done, some of the conversations that we were having was about what's to come next. It was like, you know, again, it being bigger than me, it being about, you know, the Black and brown students on campus or students of color, or just community in general, right? Because we know that the Black Student Union is not an exclusive group, right? But when we talk about that sense of community for students of color, for Black students, just tell me a little bit about that, you know, about that experience, because I remember many conversations and it speaks to the theme, truly.
Wow. So when I went into the election process for the Black Student Union, I actually applied to be community service coordinator. And I came out of that room as the vice president, which is like such a crazy thing to say, but it's truly a testament to how sometimes you go into something and you expecting less, and then you come out with more. And it was when Sebastian, I know it's a Women's History Month, but Sebastian, he was, you know, going for president at the time, and there was no VP. And I'm like, who better to learn from than Sebastian himself, who's been on e-board for years? So I was like, I would want to be under someone's leadership like that. And I ended out my slides for community service coordinator. And then I looked to all the people that were in the room and I was like, and now here's my application for the vice president of the Black Student Union. And there was a need, like, yes, we needed a community service coordinator, but I think a vice president would have held more weight, especially with where BSU was going at the time coming out of COVID. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into because I didn't set my mind on that. Walking into that room, I was like, yeah, I'm going to coordinate all these, events and, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Little did I know that I was going to experience what I experienced through BSU and transform the Black Student Union the way that I did, because I didn't walk into that room expecting to be vice president. And I remember having such I had like an identity crisis almost. I was like, I'm a sophomore, like a sophomore of a club that's been there before me. Like I was like a vice president of a club that's been there before, I came on the scene. Like it was like, how am I supposed to lead half of my e-board who's older than me? Like, I don't understand. Are they going to listen to me? And I remember like to be fair, I came in very like headstrong and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. We're going to evolve this. And like, that kind of, rubbed a lot of the e-board members the wrong way, but it's okay. And I remember just being so sure of myself. But anytime I would go to my room and like be by myself, I would be like, wait, I don't think I can do this. Like, I've never seen anyone do it before. I don't even know what it's like to lead a club on campus. Sophomore year of nursing is probably one of the hardest years. So I was also going through like, academic challenges as well. And having to like lead a club that has all these events and all these traditions set in place was definitely challenging. But I'm glad that I had people speaking life into me. Like I would be in Yolehema's office all the time. Like, yeah, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. I don't know about this. And she'd be like, yeah, you got this. You got this. Always speaking life. Like I said, like there really is power in the tongue. And like, if someone speaks life into you, then what else are you going to do if someone's believing in you? And you just have to believe in yourself. If someone's putting that much effort, to go out their way and tell you all these positive things that you're going to do.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And something that I always have to remind myself when you find yourself in positions that you didn't think that you would be in, you're kind of like, how did I get here? Right. And sometimes we don't necessarily, what I was hearing you say is that like, I'm not prepared for this. Like I came in here to be the coordinator and I'm leaving the vice president. Right. And what I always tell myself is that God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Right. I always have to remind myself of that. Right. Because when you think about your purpose and you think about your calling and where you're supposed to be is not always where you think that you should be. Right. Or what you expected to be. When we think about the purpose, when we think about passion and things of that sort, right, you had the passion for it. So then you were able to hit the ground running when you think about those things. Right. Mishal, you mentioned that, I didn't see it in myself when I first came. When we think about that, speaking life, right. When you think about the trickle down effect, if you will, right. As soon as you step foot on this campus, Mekaylia speaking life into you saying like, oh, like you're going to do great things. Right. When Mekaylia came here, I'm like, oh, she's a rock star. She's going to do amazing things. But she was kind of ready. Like, I know, I already know what I'm coming here to do. And I already set my mind up and she, did do all those things and more. Right. But as we're thinking about this and we're reflecting on, your journeys thus far, what's one piece of advice that you would give to the next generation or just incoming students, next generation of students, next group of students who want to be change makers and want to continue to push for progress?
I feel like that's definitely a good question, and it'll be like different from whoever like is in their journey and experience. But one advice I would give is don't be afraid to take risks. And then, okay, you're taking those risks, don't be afraid to ask for help. There's so much fear into taking risks nowadays, like on like the 100 negative thoughts, like, oh, what if it doesn't work out? What if it all goes downhill? Like, am I even qualified? Am I even prepared? Like, take things one step at a time, ask for help, because there is so many like amazing community, like on campus support systems. And I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, ask for help when you need it, because you will like get that help. But the thing is, like, you have to be the one to ask for it. Don't think, oh, like they're gonna judge me or they're gonna like not want to help me. That's not true. That's all entirely a dialogue in your head, and that you're doing this to yourself. And my biggest thing is and this is a work of progress for me too, like going out of my comfort zone and asking for help when people think like I have it all together. So yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest advice I'd give to future leaders. Like, don't be afraid.
Love that. Oh, wow. She took everything. I definitely would say a few things. So I would say, like Mishal said, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Advocate for yourself. Like, your needs best. Also show up take up space, because a lot of the times I feel like we are afraid to show up and take up space. We feel like coming in, oh, well, they already have this. They already have that set in place. They already have a first gen stags club. They already have, like someone like Mishal. They already have. You go in and you be who you are. You be who you want to be. No one can be you but you. And then also learning the importance of a pivot. Like sometimes life is gonna throw you some curveballs, and you just gotta learn how to just look the other way and make a new path or something. But I think pivot has been my word for the past year, because life has thrown me so many different curveballs, and it's like it makes you question your why, and it makes you question like your purpose on campus. But you can't let those curveballs deter you from who you really are called to be. And I think that if you know how to show up, and if you know how to show up for yourself even, and learn how to change directions, change path while still going towards a goal, because there's so many different pathways to one goal. And I feel like if we learn the importance of a pivot and learning how to pivot, we will thrive, and we will learn how to just be the best that we can be, especially in the face of adversary, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I agree too with what you mentioned about knowing when to pivot, right? Because sometimes we have an idea in our mind, and we're like, this is how it's going to go, and this is what's going to happen. And if you don't have the ability to pivot, you're going to hit a brick wall, because you're like, this is not working, right? And if it's not working, when do we shift and say, okay, then we have to change directions? And that's part of leadership too, right? To know when to pivot. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you both for sharing that. And as we near the close of our podcast today, I want you to take this opportunity to brag. When I say take this opportunity to brag, it's bragging about yourself. And I want you to share things that you've done, whether that's recently or a while ago, that you've accomplished, right? That just means giving kudos to yourself, right? For all that you've done and all that you're doing. As women, we tend to overlook or downplay our successes, but I truly want us to brag. Oftentimes, bragging has a negative connotation, right? So when we say like bragging, we're like, no, like I don't want to brag about myself, but it's like you did that, right? Right? We can sit here and say, oh, imposter syndrome is kicking in, or this is kicking in, and we can acknowledge that, but then we don't want to take that moment to say, oh, but I did that, right? Because essentially, in reality, it involves emphasizing the celebration of your achievements, highlighting skills and accomplishments, and essentially fostering a sense of pride. So without further ado, I want you both to brag.
Please brag first.
Who wants to brag first? Remember, somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be first.
Okay. I'll go. This is my final year. I did everything I said I was gonna do, and then some, and I'm really proud of myself. I was definitely a change maker, definitely pushing the pen a little bit on certain things, even if I got pushback. Definitely advocated for not only myself, but other students of color. I also did so much, was involved in so many things. Like my calendar has been booked. And even so, like I even took my leadership capabilities outside of Fairfield, and I tutor for Teach for America to students, and making sure that I'm bridging the literacy gap, or bridging, any educational gap, especially in communities that experience disasters, such as I did Texas after, the school shooting there. And then now I'm doing LA after the wildfire. So being able to just give everything that I've learned in Fairfield, especially with the younger generation, I feel like I have learned so much, not only about, leadership in general, but about myself and myself as a leader, because I thought leader just meant, yeah, she's confident in everything that she does, but like you have to be vulnerable. Like you have, being a leader and learning how to be a leader, like it's the most, like you are broken into many pieces just to learn how to like build yourself back up. And then once you learn how to build yourself back up, you build others up, and you teach them how to build themselves up. And it's this chain reaction. So I'm really proud of the work that I did at Fairfield, the connections that I've made, everything that I've done for the Black Student Union. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of where it's going to go. I'm proud of the amount of people that believe in us, the people that see us. I'm proud of the different things that I've been able to accomplish in Egan School of Nursing as the only Black nursing student. Like, I feel like people try to give me like a pat on the back for that, but it was like one of the heaviest crosses I've had to bear on campus. Because like, there was just no one that looked like me. I had professors here or there, but still in a regular day-to-day classroom, like no one. It was just me. And yeah, I'm just grateful to Fairfield because I've always gotten my flowers, always gotten my, congratulations, they've always seen me. So I'm really proud of just everything that I've been able to accomplish here.
Wow, that was beautiful. Honestly, I feel like I'm also like in the process, like, did I actually achieve this? Sometimes it takes me a minute to process, like, yes, I did achieve this. So I think like as a junior, some of the most like proudest moments for currently are I recently got chosen for Dolan 30 under 30.
Yeah. I was hoping you mentioned that. Brag.
It's like for where we're like judged on our academics, societal impact, and professional development. So that was something that kind of balanced it out for me. That showed like, okay, because coming like to Fairfield like as a first gen student, it's like one of the thoughts my parents have instilled in me that like academics for like the way to go. Academics is how you're gonna like achieve everything, and I like as they haven't gone to school, so I'm not like judging them for that. But I kind of realized like to coming to Fairfield that it is so much more than academics. It's about community. It's about collaboration, and that's what I've been able to find through founding the First Gen Stags Club. Like within one semester, we have gotten over 100+ members, and I'm very happy to say, like, even on our events, we get pretty good turnouts because this shows, like, that the topics we talk about and what we advocate actually, like, matter to the student body here and that they do see a value in it. So that's just overall been, like, a good, like a clap for me and a push for me that, like, great, like, what you're essentially, like, what your thought process was with your e-board members, like, it's all being validated. It's all because what sometimes, like, we think of something, but, like, when we try to like actually initiate it, it doesn't like exactly work out as we. And I've kind of like discovered that's part of life. That's what's gonna happen. And lastly, first year, I connecting to my religion and culture were very important to me, and I was not gonna lie, I was a little worried that how am I gonna be able to do that in a PWI. But being able to be part of South Asian Student Association and then Muslim Student Association, like being able to like just go to campus ministry and like having that prayer room is like such a big blessing for us. It means so much to us Muslim students. And finding that like line that like I am going to be able to do what I want to do and balance like my passions with it, because like you do essentially think at the end of the day sometimes like, am I going to be able to balance it all? Am I like overdoing it or am I like underdoing it? So being able to intersect my identities and being able to like balance my passions have been like a big part in like determining like my capabilities and like the support I've received. It's just been amazing.
Speaking of amazing, you two are absolutely amazing. And I am I'm incredibly proud of both of you. And again, just thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you for all that you've shared. Thank you for all that you continue to do. And to all of our viewers, thank you for tuning in. Let today's podcast and this year's theme remind us that when we move forward together, we all rise. I'm Yolehema Felican, and this is the Diversity in Action podcast.